37 Minutes of Heaven, we call the D1Baseball.com podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney III. I'm not the first Michael Patrick Rooney, nor the second, but I am the third, joining you on a wonderful Monday evening, and also joined by two of my favorite people on the planet Earth, the great Aaron Fitt, the great Kendall Rogers. Fitzy, let me start with you, because you're the only one on this call that's the author of a hole-in-one in golf. How are you, Fitzy? How are we doing?
Okay, Runes. I'm okay. We had a good weekend. Good weekend here, ready for big week 3. I felt like, I'll be honest with you guys, I felt like the week 2 slate in college baseball was a little bland overall. But I'm fired up for week 3. We got some big ones on tap.
Little did you know, Fitzy, the vaunted SEC Ivy League Challenge was going to produce such fireworks. KR, how are you? You had a big weekend. We took you off your pitch count this weekend. I mean, we really kind of, I don't know that we built you up properly, but you logged some innings this weekend.
It was a long weekend. It was a rather cold weekend in Round Rock. It was, first pitch on Friday for the 11 o'clock game, I think it was 35 and it was raining. So that's never a good way to start your weekend. But thankfully, when you look at the teams there, I thought Stanford, and we'll talk about them in a minute, but Stanford was kind of the highlighted team of the weekend. They looked outstanding. So it was a fun weekend. It was a long weekend, but you know what? That was kind of the preparation. That was kind of like the half marathon to get ready for the marathon that is this weekend at the Shriners College Classic.
So why don't we – I'll come back to something, but let's just address this right now,
Okay.
KR. This is an important topic for the whole enterprise that is D1Baseball.com. So the great Stitch, the man with one name, Stitch, or shall we say Stitch Head, will be joining you in Houston at the Minute Maid Classic this weekend.
He will.
Rumor has it he's going to have the morning games. So yay or nay on the beers at the morning games? Do we have a company policy on covering the morning games? Is it kegs and eggs or is it no kegs and eggs?
I mean, hey, if I don't see it, I don't care. But I'll say this: I think that's the reason why he wants the morning game, so he can like sit there in the stands and take those beers in all day, and then by the night game, I don't want to speak for him, but his writing might be a little iffy. So I'm just gonna say that's why he wants the morning games. But go ahead.
I'm going to interject here. I think this is all a conspiracy so Kendall can avoid covering UCLA because he hates the West.
Of course.
I think this is all this is.
Hater of the West. I think that's unfair. I think Kendall's hate is well documented as across the board uniform. I don't think there's
dude, I have a lot of hate, but I'll say this. We're back-to-back weekends where I'm like Mr. Pac-12. Arizona 2 weeks ago, I was singing their praises, and then I'll be singing Stanford's praises today, even though they lost earlier today to UTSA on a walk-off. What's up with that?
Yeah, but you have no respect for John Savage. Come on, you're a hooky guy. You're not a Savage guy.
I'm always a Savage guy.
So, gentlemen, my takeaway from that little sidebar, and I'm not the greatest listener in the world, as per my lovely wife, J-Ro, but what I took away from that is Stitch, beers are absolutely prohibited at morning games, but Bloody Marys are knock yourself out. That's what I heard Kendall say. So there you go, Stitch. Have a weekend. Gentlemen, tonight's podcast, we're just going to say it's brought to you by the D1 Players Society.
Yeah, why not?
And let's give two shout-outs. Our man, Garrett Ostrander, Cal Baptist, right? He's a Lancer?
That's right.
Phenomenal
He's a fighting Lancer.
Phenomenal work. I cannot wait for Cal Baptist to be postseason eligible. Coach Adcock, an old friend, building a monster in Riverside, California. But you go, Garrett Ostrander. He's crushing. Here's the other one. I listened to the Strawberry Milk podcast on the D1 feed. Wes Burton of Ole Miss, Trey Faltini of Texas. Now, if I can give you guys some constructive criticism, I felt like the first 10 minutes of the podcast were fine. You guys were very mature, like us boring adults. I thought the last 20 minutes you guys crushed. I thought it was amazing, some of the stuff that Trey and Wes got into. Again, I highly recommend. I thought it was a great listen. It was especially the second half of that podcast was a conversation that only two players can have. The rest of us can't generate that type of authentic, viewing of what college baseball is from the player's perspective. I thought those guys were awesome. Well done, boys.
Can I just go ahead and say this? I love Trey Faltini, but Strawberry Milk, I'm not sure I'm on team Strawberry Milk.
But you can get it at Buc-ee's, right?
But I don't like strawberry milk, so why would I look for strawberry milk at Buc-ee's?
Let me just do spoiler alert. The highlight of the podcast for me was, and I think it was Trey said this, but maybe it was Wes. I don't want to miscredit, but they got on a conversation about Buc-ee's, and I'm almost certain it was Trey that said Buc-ee's is like if a gas station and a Walmart made a baby. Buc-ee's is what you get. It was awesome.
Who said this?
Trey and Wes. I guess we have to give them joint credit
that's
for
kind
it.
of awesome.
It was awesome.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it was good. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. Really well done.
Speaking of Trey Faltini, let's dive into the rankings. We have Texas #1 again this week, guys, and the Longhorns. Trey can maybe hit 180 this year, and it won't matter because Texas allowed 1 run in 3 games to Alabama. How about that, boys?
Yeah, I thought that was just, like Alabama. The Hammeter kid, I think, might be out. That stinks for them. But yeah, that was. I don't know. Texas. I anticipated them handling that series, and they did it. And I don't know. You got anything there, Fitzy? Kind of was whole. They did their thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's nobody likes the phrase moral victory. And you got swept. It's definitely not a moral victory, but I mean, Alabama was right in that series. On the road against #1 team in the country, they just about matched them on the mound. Game after game. I mean, I'm really here's a name, Kendall, that I know you heard good things about. Is Hunter Furtado, left-hander, transferred from Wake Forest. I ran into him in the summer, and I remember, that day I think it was in Hyannis. He got lit up. Like he gave up. They batted around in the first inning against him, but I still walked away thinking, like, man, this guy's got good stuff. Like he just got kicked around, and I'm like, wow, this guy's got a chance to be good. To see him go out there and throw 3 hitless innings in relief against Texas, I thought was a very encouraging sign. Antoine John, very good again. I mean, Alabama pitched, I mean, you don't have Connor Prelip, maybe one of the best prospects in the country. You're not going to have him all year, and they're still competing on the mound and hanging with the team that has the best pitching staff in the country. So I do think that even though they got swept, I saw encouraging signs for Alabama going forward because their offense is going to be better than it was this weekend. I mean, that's a tough matchup. And
when you look at the conditions, Aaron, and the cold and the wet, I mean, that's the worst place in America to be playing a baseball game when it's cold and wet in that cavern. But Gary McMillan was really good for him too. I think he threw 6 shutout on Friday against Hanson.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I just can't get over Alabama not getting to have Connor Prelip this year. Like, that kid was a program changer. And so, to their credit, I think they're going to be very much in the hunt for regional this year, just like they were last year. And, when you lose a top 5 talent, those are hard to get to your campus. That's a sign of a good program that you're still scrapping for a regional. Boys, let's fast forward to, I think, one of the juicier topics of the week. So Stanford and Arkansas, and kind of how that, what happened in that tournament, how that affected how we ranked those 2 teams. It was interesting. KR, you were there. You saw it live and in person. Stanford and Arkansas, talk us through what you saw.
Well, I think, if you're one of those people who looks at right now, I think Stanford's better right now. But it's easy to see the upside when you look at Arkansas. I mean, when you look at the Hogs right now, Brady Slavin's really struggled with the bat at times over the weekend. Peyton Stovall, who Aaron saw really good in the fall. Obviously, I mean, like, he looks the part. He's a really talented player. I think he had 1 hit, 9 at bats, and actually didn't even play the last game. I guess DVH kind of gave him some time off in that last game of the tournament. So, those 2 guys really haven't done a lot. And then when you look at the pitching side of things, when you look at the Hogs, Hagan Smith was a guy I was really looking forward to seeing. And, again, like, his frame exactly the way you want to draw it up if you're a scout. And the stuff was good. For the most part, the stuff was good. I mean, it was 93, 94. The breaking ball was just okay. What essentially happened, though, Stanford kind of made Hagan throw the slider for strikes. They were kind of laying off the fastball. And whenever they forced him to try to throw that slider for strikes, he wasn't able to throw it for strikes. And that's why he lasted, I think it was 2 1/3 innings. But, I guess the takeaway for me when I look at Arkansas is if there's one thing that was encouraging is Jackson Wiggins, the way he ended his start. Wiggins really struggled early on against Louisiana in the nightcap with his command, but he kind of settled in, ended up allowing 2 runs in 6 innings, and the stuff was there. I mean, he was up to 97 as usual, and so that was an encouraging start for him. So I think Arkansas is one of those teams, offensively, I don't think any of us expected them to kind of sputter here early, but I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, guys, and tell me if you disagree, but I don't think there's any doubt when you look at the talent up and down that lineup. I mean, they're going to be fine.
They're going to hit, guys. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't care what the numbers say 2 weeks into the season in February. There's just so much talent here, and Caden Wallace and Robert Moore and our first rounders. I think Michael Turner is a guy. Lanzilli has a long track record. I still believe Jace Borafin will be a real contributor here. Jalen Battles had that huge home run. That's a guy that I think has a lot more offensive upside than he's shown to this point in his career. I mean, there's bat speed there. So yeah, I mean, they're going to hit. I mean, for me, it still comes down to the pitching, without Peyton Paulette, with a freshman, a very, very good freshman that I believe in a lot, Hagan Smith, but a freshman in your weekend rotation, there's going to be some growing pains probably along the way. I think this team by the end of the year will be, even in just a couple of weeks, I think it'll be a totally different team than they are right now. But I do think we need to address why we have them still number 3 in the rankings and Stanford 6, because this was something that we got some pushback on, predictably, because Stanford went 3-0. They beat Arkansas head to head. They didn't move up in the rankings, and that looks dumb. I get it. I mean, I get it. It looks dumb, but I mean, the rankings don't happen in a vacuum. How many times do I have to go down this rant? I mean, the teams in front of you all won their weekends. Like college baseball is about winning your weekends. I'm not going to drop Vanderbilt after a 4-0 week. I don't care if it wasn't against as strong a competition. They went 4-0. They shouldn't drop. Oklahoma State won their weekend, and a week earlier they won a series on the road against the top 10 team. You can't drop Oklahoma State. You can't drop Texas and Ole Miss. They're undefeated. They're top 2 teams in the country. So the only option then, if you want to move Stanford up, is do you drop Arkansas 4 spots after they go 2-1 on the weekend? I don't think so. I mean, it's not how it works. It's college baseball. You win 2 out of 3. We still dropped them 1. I wouldn't drop them 4. That's nonsense. Have some feel, people.
Yeah, and I would say it this way, guys, too. Like Stanford, we pride ourselves, and you guys established this trend before I got here, and I think it's I love that it's the way you guys have always operated, is to have a less reactionary rankings, right? Like not to be so simplistic, because here's the thing, guys. If we were going to be reactionary, Stanford might have climbed back to number 6 this week after a very frightening first weekend against now 1-5 Cal State Fullerton, who just got swept at home by Gonzaga, who Oregon State ran off the field. And, it's Stanford had Fullerton at home and barely escaped with a series win, including getting blown out by Cal State Fullerton. So I like the fact that our rankings are more measured. It's more of a long-term appeal, because otherwise you end up with just utter chaos. And again, we all recognize that if you don't react at all, then you end up with some really bad teams in your rankings that just don't ever slip out. We don't want that either. But that's why rankings are really tricky. It's you're trying to find that balance between context and performance.
Yeah, real quick. I mean, I didn't even mention Connor Nolan for Arkansas. He had the best start of the weekend for the Hogs. The big differentiator with Connor that I really hadn't seen before is, typically in the past, I saw him as more of a kind of a fastball slider changeup guy. He actually had a little bit more of kind of just a nasty, like downer curve over the weekend. So that was a really good development for the Hogs, seeing him go out there and pitch like that. So he's stepping up in Pallett's absence. But let's talk about Stanford real quick. I really like their club. I didn't see a lot of their bullpen arms. They relied on Tommy O'Rourke and Joey Dixon quite a bit. But, and Braden Montgomery, those are going to kind of be their 3 guys, right? Like those are the 3 guys that kind of went to in any important situation over the weekend. Montgomery, the freshman, up to 94, 95, came in a really high leverage situation yesterday and got out of a jam. So that was promising for them. But I think the biggest thing for me, guys, when I look at Stanford, 2 things. The weekend rotation outside of Alex Williams with Drew Dowd, then Quinn Matthews yesterday. Drew Dowd, was, only 87, 88, bumping an 89, but had a really good slider that, teams had a lot of trouble with. And then when you look at Quinn Matthews, I think the last time I saw him, he might have been like 88, 89. And and I don't know if it was adrenaline or what. Dave Esper told me after the game that he had been, that velocity wise in the fall. But, he was sitting 90, 92, up to 93 with a pretty good breaking ball. So those 2 developments for me are pretty promising. You combine them with Alex, and, that's a pretty good 3-man rotation, especially when you have those 3 arms on the back end. And then offensively, I think we all 3 kind of thought this. But, Tommy Troy, was kind of the guy we thought would have a breakout year, and he was just an absolute menace over the weekend. I think he had 6 hits yesterday. Brett Barrera had a big time weekend. We'll see if he can be more consistent. Barrera even mentioned, admitted after the game that, like, hey, I haven't always been the most consistent hitter. So yeah, like, I'm happy about this, but I kind of want to string these together. So, I mean, that was a big development. And then Carter Graham was really good for Stanford over the weekend too. So I think it was promising for me offensively that Brock Jones was pretty quiet, and they still, for the most part, hit the ball pretty hard. I was really impressed with Stanford.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in it to win it. I think I'll speak for myself. When we ranked them number 6, you're like, okay, in the preseason, you're like, dang, like they were really good in Omaha last year, but Brendan Beck is gone. Like, some guys, that's a big hole to fill. Some people are going to have to really step forward. And then the first weekend happened, and quite honestly, I was really anxious about Stanford. Like, man, oh man, like, because let's be honest, Quinn Matthews is the guy that got bombed, right? Like, he's the one that had that start that led to an. So anyway, really exciting to see Stanford. It's almost like as the competition increases, they love a good challenge. I think about what they did with Texas Tech last year in the Super Regional. So very encouraging for Stanford.
One thing that was really cool about the game yesterday, guys, and I don't know, and I think I tweeted this out once, but I didn't really dive into it much, but it had a very much a regional final atmosphere, which was awesome considering you have a school from California and a school from Arkansas. I want to say Stanford probably had 150 fans there, and Arkansas might have had a couple of thousand. But I mean, the Stanford fans were loud from first pitch. The Arkansas fans were loud from first pitch. The two fan bases were kind of chirping back and forth. Quinn Matthews was staring down the Arkansas hitters. Like, it was a big time atmosphere considering it was the second week of the season. And Esky kind of mentioned, like, we don't get those kind of games very often, in California that early in the season. So to have like that, like, heated of a game this early and to have our team play like that, like, they kind of gave him a pretty good idea of what to expect the rest of the year when they get in these big situations with UCLA, Arizona, and teams like that. But the last couple of weeks, guys, the Pac-12, Arizona, and now Stanford, I'm feeling pretty good. In your reports on Oregon State, I'm feeling pretty good about the top of the Pac-12 now, fellas.
I will say, and this kind of goes to Runes' point earlier about not being too reactionary early in the season. A week ago, I was ready to kind of really force Runes to commit. Are you sticking with Stanford to win the Pac? Or are you going to jump to my side and take Oregon State? Because I really felt strongly a week ago that Oregon State was the team. And I thought, for me, they were the team entering the year also. Oregon State's still undefeated. But let me ask you this, Runes. In light of, and Kendall, you reported, I think, that it sounds like Oregon State's
Frisch might be out for a while.
Right. So if you don't get Will Frisch back, Jake Fenning's left with an injury this weekend. How concerned should we be about the Beavers' rotation, and how much does that affect your judgment of them going forward?
Yeah, I would say Oregon State. I've seen them 5 times now, and it's a really good team. I would tell you their weaknesses are way better than I anticipated. Kyle Dernetti has been fantastic at shortstop. Gavin, this platoon they've got of Gavin Logan and Tanner Smith, the freshman, at catcher, really productive. They've got a great platoon of Matthew Gretler and Jake Dukart, who have been everyday players at third base. I mean, Jacob Melton is going off. They've been fantastic. I will say I'm a little concerned about the pitching because they have depth. I'm actually more concerned about the bullpen than I am about the rotation because they had backup starters. Brock Townsend's an elite strike thrower. I mean, this kid had 35 strikeouts to 4 walks last year. They got the Ben Ferrer kid from USC Upstate, great strike thrower, can go long innings. Hey, the freshman Jacob Kamatz it's not overwhelming stuff, but he's been fairly impressive. But, Mitchell Verberg's very good at the end of the games, but he's not really been healthy most of his career. DJ Carpenter, who they really like, and you could see why they like him up to 94, he coughed it up, in the third game against Xavier. So, I think Frisch is fantastic. Fennings, he still feels like he teases you, like 6'7", arm strength. But, he didn't complete his warm-up pitches in the third inning in his start. So I do think I still think they're very good. I think it's an Omaha caliber roster. I'm kind of in wait and see mode on how that pitching comes around. But honestly, I thought Frisch is the bigger loss than Fennings right now, because he's a he's in any role you want, arm strength, suffocate the strike zone guy. So yeah, that's not ideal. I mean, hey, I'll finish with this thought. One of the maybe the book cover of the Oregon State club coming into the season was best rotation on the West Coast. And now 2 of those 3 kids, we don't know. So yeah, I'm really interested to see, but there's still a ton to like with the Beavers. Hey, let me reverse the tables on you guys. Another team that I think is of great interest right now, Hail State. Mississippi State takes their weekend that they lose to Long Beach at home, and then they double down with a series opening loss to Northern Kentucky at home. So they have now lost both of Landon Sims' starts, which feels like not possible. That feels like me showing up a week from now with a full head of hair. Like, I don't understand how that happens. So I'd love to get your guys' take on Mississippi State. Fitzy, why don't I start with you? Where are we on Hail State?
I'm going to press here, guys. I'm going to double down on Mississippi State. They're fine. If that's 2 weeks into the year, it's February. They did wind up still going 3-1 last week. The Sims thing is just weird and fluky. I mean, he's pitched fine. He's pitched great the first week. I think he was good the second week, and they maybe kicked it around behind him. I think it was some unearned runs there. It's just kind of a weird fluky thing that he hasn't won yet. But I mean, like, from what I've seen, I still believe that guy is the best pitcher in college baseball. If I got to win a game right now, that's still the guy I want, even though he's 0-2 with a loss to Northern Kentucky. Go figure. That's baseball. Hashtag that's baseball. But what was encouraging to me, guys, Preston Johnson, another guy that's making that conversion from the bullpen into that starting role. He was very good. He pitched into the 7th inning. I think it was 1 run this weekend. And Cade Smith, I mean, a really key guy for them as a second-year player that they're counting on to be an innings eating guy, really an athletic righty that has feel to pitch and pounds zone and solid stuff. And he's been good too. So my biggest questions about Mississippi State were how the rotation was going to shake out. I liked their pitching depth a lot. I liked their lineup a lot. I still like their lineup a lot. Still like their defense a lot. All I'm saying is this: if people are worried about Mississippi State because what are they, 3-2, 4-3? I mean, okay, I'll buy low. I'll buy all the stock I can buy on these guys.
Love it. KR, what do you got on Hail State?
I'm with Aaron. I did actually have a Mississippi State fan tweet at me the other night, and I think he might have been serious about whether or not Limo needs to be on the hot seat. I think he might have been serious when I went back and looked at like his old tweets. I'm like, I think he's serious. But I think Mississippi State will be fine. What's interesting, so I was kind of looking at their team this morning for what we learned, and it was kind of interesting. Kellum Clark was a guy that I thought, at the very end of last year, he wasn't great, but I mean, he had some big hits for him down the stretch last year. I think he's only got 15 at bats this year. I want to say he's hitting like 114. Like, he's kind of one of those guys that I feel like kind of needs to turn it up a notch.
I think he's 0 for 15, Kendall.
Oh, really? He doesn't have a hit. Okay, I thought he was hitting 114. Okay, he doesn't have a hit, so even worse. But yeah, like, he's one of those guys that, especially with a couple of the big hits he had for him in Omaha last year, they need to flip the switch. But I mean, how, like, this happens in a lot of sports. Like, a team wins a national championship, they go, a few weeks into the next season where they're on the struggle bus, and all of a sudden they kind of figure things out. Tell you what, middle of SEC play, if they're still playing like this, I'll be a little concerned, even 2 weeks into it. But right now, nah, I'm good.
And CJ in the chat over there, I agree. This is I think for Mississippi State, Tulane, at Tulane is probably, for Mississippi State, getting on the road's probably exactly what they need. Like, just kind of get away from all the fanfare of the national. I mean, the national championship parade at Mississippi State's been like, it's still going, right? It's their first national title in any male team sport, to my knowledge. So, it's almost like the celebration never ended. So getting on the road is probably good for them. It's a huge opportunity for Tulane. And I would say, the Tanner Allen and the Rowdy Jordans of the world, they don't just provide statistics. They provide a lot of cover for other guys to get themselves right. So, go ahead, KR.
No, I was going to say, that's a fascinating series. Dylan Carmouche, the Mississippi State transfer, is off to a great start for Tulane on the mound. So, him going against his old team, I know Aaron will have a lot more on Tulane tomorrow, but that was a big series win for them over the weekend at the Love Shack, especially after the Bulldogs took care of business against LSU on Tuesday.
I hear you, Mark S. in the chat. A Joe Borchard reference. I'm with you. I mean, come on now. Joe Borchard was a man-child in college baseball.
One of the bashers by the Bay, I believe.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, let me assign you guys two teams. Tennessee and Maryland, to me, have had two of the louder first two weekends for different reasons. Maryland has gone on the road and taken down what I think are two NCAA tournament teams. Tennessee has not played an NCAA tournament team that we're aware of, but boy, have they put up some points. Fitzy, talk me through Maryland. I know you've spent a lot of time on them. Did even this surprise? Did you pick Campbell or did you pick Maryland this weekend?
I picked Campbell because
this was a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really in on Campbell, and even now, after they just got swept at home, I'm still not jumping off the Campbell wagon. I really like their pitching, but that shows me a lot that Maryland went there and swept them on the road.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I didn't know what to make of Maryland on the mound. Coming into the year, Nick Dean had never really had a full healthy season. Last year was mono in the first half, and then he had a wrist injury at the end. And so it's like, we needed to see him come out and establish himself as a legit Friday night guy. And he is. I mean, it's a real bulldog competitor, plus changeup, attacks, competes, all that stuff that you want, 90-92. And then, Ryan Ramsey, a good lefty with kind of carry through the zone, fastball guy behind him, strike thrower, and Jason Savacool. And that's three real guys, like legitimate innings eating, strike throwing guys with stuff. And I wondered about the bullpen behind him. And I think the pieces back there fit together pretty well. We knew they were going to hit. It's a pretty good offensive club. My boy Matt Shaw is a stud. But I mean, they're just a balanced team. Right now, at this point, 7-0 with road sweeps at Baylor and Campbell. I mean, again, not to be reactionary, but I think Maryland's the team to beat in the Big Ten, especially the way Nebraska has struggled. We already had Maryland as a projected regional team. They were in the handful of teams we had at the top of the league entering the season. I think right now they've made an early statement that they're the favorite.
Fitzy, let me give you a follow-up question on Maryland. So just to be honest, I've had a really difficult time just kind of I've not watched them yet, and I've had a difficult time creating a visual for myself, painting a picture for myself. And I'm going to give you a comp. I want you to confirm or deny it. By the way, Nick Dean is from suburban Philly, Ben Salem High School, the Ben Salem Owls. There is a 100% chance that Nick Dean is an Eagles fan. Go Eagles. But anyway, I digress. So the comp, Fitzy, is they kind of remind me of those old Virginia teams where it's a bunch of Northeast Mid-Atlantic teams. There's maybe not the crazy star power, but they're just old and experienced. They play right. Nick Dean doesn't sound like a first-round pick, but he's certainly a guy that can win every single Friday. I don't know. Am I way off base or am I in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I mean, Virginia had those kind of guys like a Tyler Wilson type guy who, it maybe wasn't enormous stuff, but he just was a winner, and a strike thrower and all that kind of stuff. And, polished. They've got polished arms on the mound. They do have some star power. Again, Matt Shaw is a star. This guy's really good. Bubba Alleen's a great player who's got a long track record. I think Bobby Smarzlak is figuring it out. He's teased us the last couple of years. I think that's the guy that's on the come. And Max Costas has put up numbers in his career. He's a real force there. So they've got some athleticism and some balance. But you're right. I mean, it is kind of a blue collar team. And I don't know. I like the way they play. I mean, they really showed a lot of composure.
Yeah, I'm with you. KR, let me take you to Tennessee. Man, that I don't know what to make of Tennessee. It's just they're just killing everybody. The games aren't even close for a half second. You blink and you look at the D1 scoreboard and Tennessee's up 10-0. It's like the game started 5 seconds ago. So what's your take on the Vols?
My take is I don't know if they're that good, but they're pretty dang good. I get it. They really haven't played great teams, but I mean, Georgia Southern was a team I wrote about in the Sun Belt preview that I actually thought would be pretty solid in that league. So, I mean, the fact that they, roughed them up in a couple of games stood out to me. Obviously, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there who would crush Iona, but not to give the beef jerkies a lot of credit, but Trey Lipscomb's off to a terrific start. I mean, I think he's hitting 571. 4 homers, 20 RBIs. He hit for the cycle over the weekend. Drew Gilbert's hitting well over 400. And then when you look at Tennessee, what was kind of the question mark with those guys coming into the season with Blade Tidwell on the shelf? Pitching staff, right? Well, all of a sudden, Chase Burns, 10 scoreless innings, or hasn't allowed an earned run in 10 innings. You look at the bullpen, Redmond Walsh, Cam Sewell, and now Ben Joyce is out there throwing absolute gas and, doing a pretty good job and, in kind of spot relief. So all of a sudden, they've got more than capable starters, at least the first 2 weekends. We'll find out more this weekend. And we're finding out they've got 3-4 pretty solid options. I didn't even mention Kirby Cannell. So that's now 4 legitimate and 3 of them very experienced options out of the bullpen. When you combine that with that offense, I think Tennessee is one of those teams that I think we have them in the right spot in the rankings right now, but I could see them after this weekend going way up.
Yeah, it's crazy. The thing that's so perplexing about them guys is, like, I can't think of a scarier place to play right now than at Tennessee. I mean, it just feels like you can't hold them under 10 runs in that little bandbox of a park. And I'm with you, KR. Like, there just wasn't an opportunity to run them up the rankings, and they get a real test this weekend. I think that's the bottom line: is they play Texas, Oklahoma, and Baylor this weekend. It's not in their home park, so it's a chance to really see what's up. But I think, to our good friend Chris from Louisville, #Berkey, who is just all over us about the every time Berkey gives us a hard time about the rankings of the Vols, I found this picture of these orange goggles that I send him. That is really the only thing I've got for him. But
yeah, I'm fascinated. You said they open with Texas, right? Like, I'm fascinated at that lineup against Pete Hansen in a big league park. I think that's just a really interesting, dynamic between that offense and Pete Hansen, who's kind of a precision left-handed pitcher. That's just a very interesting, matchup there.
Guys, can I take us on a quick tangent here? Comment in the chat. The Big Ten Boilers, 35 for 35 in stolen bases. That made me do a little bit of a double take. I had to fact check, and indeed it checks out. Purdue is 35 for 35 in stolen bases. Our man Curtis Washington Jr. of the D1 Players Society, 7 for 7.
Suck up.
7 for 7 leads the way, hitting 375. Hey, listen, Chris Gennaro, give me some bonus points for the D1 Players Society plug, please.
Is Curtis Washington on Bucky's Buccos, or is he on your taxi squad, KR? You didn't draft him, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, that's right. You've got him stashed away in AAA.
He's the only Player Society player I didn't draft, I think.
That's right. Hey, by the way, guys, I think that's cool though. Greg Goff, like, you remember coaching at Division II, Monticello, and at La Tech, like, that's his thing, is the stolen bases. And I feel like at Alabama, it just didn't work, right? But at Purdue, I think he's going to be able to implement that system in a real way, and obviously that's happening now. That's not what. They're not going to steal a trillion bases in the Big Ten, but they're going to run. They're going to pressure teams. Yeah. So I think that's cool. I think Greg Goff has found a really good home at Purdue. I think he's going to do an excellent job there, and really cool to see them off to a hot start.
Well, it's just one of those things, Runes, like, you could have one of the best coaches in college baseball, and they may not be a great fit at a certain place. And obviously, for both parties, really, for him and for Alabama, he wasn't an awesome fit there. And what happens? He's now going to the Big Ten, kind of more under the radar kind of program. And he's kind of, creating that same, energy that he had at some previous stops. So it is great to see. He's one of the more interesting kind of great guys in the business, I feel like.
Agreed. And another cool thing is, you guys just alluded to, the Big Ten is going to be fun this year. I think that race is going to be super fun. And it's so wild because their league schedule just is terrible, right? Like, I'm not saying that towards the coaches. I'm saying that towards the administration of the league. Like, they play 24 games and they never get them all in. It's like, I heard one of the coaches in the league that will go on name say, is that even really a league champion? Like, you skip. By the way, and Rick Heller, you guys need to look at Iowa's. So the theory is that the Big Ten schedule is computer generated, and had a quick conversation with Rick Heller this week. And if you look at Iowa's Big Ten schedule, it looks like the schedule was computer generated by a computer at the Iowa State campus, because it is so awful. Iowa's Big Ten schedule is so nasty and gnarly. But anyway, I think they're going to be up for it anyway. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, that's a really interesting league. I mean, you have Indiana and Nebraska combined. Was it 2-11? You've got Steve Owens doing a really nice job at Rutgers. Rutgers is off to the best start in school history. So, yeah, that's going to be a really interesting league at the top. I like Michigan's club. I do agree with Aaron, though. I think for me, I actually feel like Maryland is by a pretty decent margin probably the best team in that league right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a big difference between them and Michigan right now.
And fear the Scarlet Knights.
Yes.
Talking with people who saw some of that series this weekend, it sounds like that offense is real. It is a scary offense. They can, as Runes would say, they can put up some points.
Yes, they can.
They did it against a Wilmington.
They scored a few goals.
Yeah,
right.
and actually Wilmington and Coastal. I mean, they faced some arms this weekend. They scored, I believe, double digits in all three of those games. So keep an eye on
Old team with size, and they did a nice job in the transfer portal. Yeah, Steve Owens was just an all-time great hire by Rutgers. Boys, let's get to what I would call, arguably, well, at least if it's not the story of the last weekend, it's one of the stories. Sac State goes to Long Beach State and sweeps them. Now, again, we kept Long Beach State ranked. They do have a series win in Stark Vegas, and it was really a great series. 3 one-run games, and in the final game, Long Beach State is up 4-0 in the 7th, and they give the ball to Devereaux Harrison, and still, or I should say Harrison Devereaux, the man with 2 really cool first names. And he can't hold it, right? He coughs it up, and so like I don't know what to make of that. Let me say it this way, and I'll get your guys' thoughts. I think that says more about Sac State than it says about Long Beach State. Fair or unfair?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say fair. It's 3 one-run games. Long Beach just showed their toughness a week ago by winning a series on the road against the defending champs. I mean, you lose 3 at home the next week. It's it just shows you. I'm glad we didn't run Long Beach in the top 5 or something last week. It pays not to be too reactionary, but yeah, I think you just you give credit to the team that won the series. I don't know. I mean, you like Sac State coming into the season, Runes, and I think they justify why. It's a good program.
Yep. Yeah, and Kendall, I think you followed Reggie Christensen's career. It's like this guy's really a great coach. I mean, he's been great everywhere he's been. He was great at South Dakota State, and now his run at Sac State has been to 3 regionals since 2014. So it's not like Sac State is not not a viable team, and their position play. I'll tell you guys, like they're a COVID team in that. Man, their position player group is old. I think there are 2 6th-year seniors in there, a couple other 5th-year seniors. They got Josh Rowling come back from Cal. They got Cesar Valero coming back from Oregon State. I think he had a huge hit in this thing. Yep. Like Reggie's gets it. Like he knows what he's doing. That part doesn't shock me. Sac State is just a really good program with a really good coach.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of props to Eli Saul too, their Friday starter. Against Luis Ramirez. Luis Ramirez goes out there and has another outstanding start for the Beach, but Eli Saul matched him, and I think he went 7 innings, gave up either no runs or a run. I can't remember, but I mean he had an outstanding start. So anytime you have that Friday guy that can put together that kind of performance on to start your weekend. It certainly helps your case. But, Runes, we talk about these different conferences, but, like, to me, the WAC is really interesting at the top. I mean, you look at Sac State, you look at Sam Houston, GCU. These are all really solid teams there at the top of the WAC. That top, 4 or 5 group in that league is pretty good.
Yeah, New Mexico State's off to a good start. I'm telling you guys, when Cal – if you're someone that prides yourself on being ahead of the curve in college baseball, write down Cal Baptist Lancers. That is going to be the next WAC program that every year, hey, they've won. They've shared the league crown back-to-back years. They're just not eligible for the NCAA tournament. So I agree. I'm telling you guys, the WAC being a one-bid league is just epically unfair. It's 13 teams, and the top tier of that league is really excellent in baseball.
Can I tell you how stupid it is to have the transition rule?
Yeah, I agree. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But I was just going to interject this. We've got some really good programs making that transition. How about the Tritons, UC San Diego guys, sitting 6-3. This was a D2 powerhouse program, of course, under Coach Newman. They split 4 with Washington of the Pac-12 this week. Also won a midweek game at USC. They started out by taking 3 out of 4 from Seattle. So the Tritons sitting 6-3. They got a lot of intriguing position players who put up big numbers last year. I was curious to see how that production would carry over to the D1 level, and so far so good.
I love
Yeah.
those D2 powerhouses that transfer in because the kids are used to winning,
Yeah.
and the recruits are used to them being good. I think I like Grand Canyon was that, Cal Baptist was that. I think those schools that come in from Division II where they've had success it's a really good kind of program kickstarter.
Yeah, speaking of programs that are kickstarting things, I saw a tweet over the weekend from a famous baseball scribe named Aaron Fitt. Let's give a tip of the cap to St. Peter's. How about the Peacocks, guys? They went
Strut
3
your
of 4 from
stuff.
Coppin State. And what was it, Aaron? I'm just reading your tweet now. That's the most non-conference games they've won total in the last 5 years combined.
Yeah. I think it's more, or at least as many non-conference wins as they had last 5 years combined. Yeah.
3.
Amazing.
Lou.
Amazing.
Sweet
Listen,
Lou.
he's doing a great job. And I think just to tease something here, I think we might have an appearance from Coach Lou Proietti in the Sidearm Delivery podcast this week with our boy Shotgun Sprout.
That's awesome.
That
is awesome.
We talk about like college programs and like just the difference between like a program and like the SEC or the Pac-12 or the ACC and some of these programs in Metro Atlantic. St. Peter's, guys, has one paid assistant, and I won't say an exact number, but the one paid assistant makes like less than $30,000 a year. So like imagine as a coach trying to create a winning program or a program that wins anything with those kind of constraints. So I give Lou a lot of credit. Like the guy's got a great personality. He takes kind of their situation in stride, and like he just tries to make the best of it. I actually really respect the hell out of the guy, because it'd be very easy to be like, you know what, hell, I'd rather go be a volunteer at St. John's and do this crap. So I give him a lot of credit.
His optimism and his perseverance, it's not easy to go through what that program has gone through. So I'm with you. Good on Coach Lou. Boys, I don't think, Fitzy, you wrote an awesome piece on North Carolina that I finally got to today. That the North Carolina comes in the rankings. They won 2 out of 3 from East Carolina. They really hammered Seton Hall in the first weekend. There's a lot to like there. Vance Honeycutt, their exciting center fielder, true freshman. Max Carlson back from his arm injury. I don't want to belabor the point on North Carolina. Would you, Fitzy? Let me frame it this way. It feels like we like it feels like we're really intrigued, but we're not ready to just go completely bonkers on North Carolina right now. Do you think that's a fair assessment of it?
Yeah, not bonkers, but yeah, I mean, this was a team that we did not project to make a regional entering the season, and now they're in the top 25 2 weeks in. So clearly we're buying in to some degree. And a big part of it for me was like one of these teams that, like a lot of teams we've talked about, they had a lot of question marks to answer on the mound, especially in the rotation. You lose Austin Love, and it was okay. We've got a JUCO kid coming in, Brandon Schaefer. Can he be a legit weekend guy? It's a big jump in competition from the JUCO that he was at to North Carolina. Can Max Carlson come back from that elbow injury, the surgery he had last year? Not Tommy John, but I think it was one of the bracing procedure. Didn't really pitch in the fall. That's always an X factor, and he had a 6 ERA in limited action last year. So it's like, okay, can he be a dude? Update. Yes, I think he can be. I mean, it's actually kind of similar to Nick Dean, it was like 1992. He really, the fastball's a calling card with this guy. It's just got that riding life. It's the induced vertical break thing, plays above the velocity. And it's a really good changeup. Not quite as good as Dean's changeup, but it's comparable. It's fastball changeup guy who really commands it. Like him a lot. Really good look for me. That was very encouraging. And and the bullpen is good. I mean, it's a lot of variety, and you got like your low slot lefty like Sean Rapp, who can really come in and match up with anybody's lefties like he did against East Carolina this weekend. Davis Palermo, a power righty from the right side, who's really emerging. And I'll tell you, Caden O'Brien, the veteran lefty, looked better than I'd seen him in probably 3 or 4 years. He's been around a while, this guy, but it was 1992, and I feel like even last year, I think it was like 86, 87 guy, so if he's 1992 with a, plus changeup, that's a nice weapon back there. I think they feel like he can be a legit closer for them. So I think I knew they were going to hit. I thought their offense was going to be a lot better this year. I like the athleticism. Vance Honeycutt, though, Runes, I don't know if you saw this in the report. I loved the comp that Scott Forbes made for him. He dropped a Trey Turner on him, even though he's not a shortstop. He's a center fielder, but it's that kind of athlete. And that kind of game-changing speed. I don't think he's quite maybe the 80 runner that Trey was, but he's probably a 70 runner. But like Trey, he's kind of got that whippy right-handed swing. And I just think that boy, it's an exciting game changer kind of a talent with huge upside, and he's already got a 1,500 ops, a couple weeks in, so that's a good start.
Aaron, I'm kind of curious. East Carolina, assuming they don't have Carson Wisenhunt for a while, regional team? No.
Yes, I do think so. I love this, by the way, comment by Mark S. here. Gary Brown from Cal State Fullerton, another great, actually really
Great
intriguing
athlete.
comp.
Yeah.
Really intriguing comp for Vance Honeycutt. I think he was another right-handed hitter too.
Yes.
But yes, I mean, listen, my thought on East Carolina, if Wisenhunt doesn't come back, and we don't know, it's a big uncertainty right now, is I still think they're a regional caliber team, but I don't think they're the clear favorite in the American that they were heading into the season. Because you take a preseason All-America, first team, preseason All-America, top 5 talent out of your rotation, it just, everybody else on that staff has to absorb that loss. You're talking about losing 100 plus innings, and replacing those innings with guys who aren't as good. So like that's one guy that really not having him takes a huge toll. Now, Jake Kuchmaner's a veteran. He was good this weekend. They need a hit. They just, right now their offense is just struggling. I think they have players that are better than they performed so far. Clearly, they have some veteran guys with track records like Bryson Worrell, and I still think Zach Agnos is going to get hot at some point. Alec Makarevich. I mean, they've got some nice pieces, but they don't have is Connor Norby and Thomas Francisco, the guys who are really like the dudes in that lineup last year. So that's the thing is, we thought maybe that they would be okay without those guys, especially if you've got a real ace. But if they don't have Wisenhunt, I think that league's up for grabs.
Boys, let me take us around some of the teams that just missed the rankings. And then let's get to some of the big stories in college baseball so far this year. So the teams that we considered: West Virginia, Auburn, Clemson, Southern Miss, South Carolina, Virginia, Old Dominion, Tulane, Wake Forest, Irvine. Those are all teams that are kind of they're kind of right on the fringes of the rankings. Of that group, the one, and you guys can go anywhere you want there, but the team that stood out for me in that group was West Virginia. I think they had a really difficult, choppy season last year. And yet, when they went to the conference tournament in Oklahoma City, as a true Randy Mazey team would do, they played chippy, and I mean that in a positive way. Like, they played plucky and feisty. Like, you can't tell us we had a bad year. And clearly, there was that clubhouse did not seem perfect to me last year. Now they get this great freshman class: JJ Weatherholt, left-handed hitter from Pittsburgh; Grant Hussey, West Virginia Player of the Century, sounded like, and then Tevin Tucker's healthy at shortstop. Austin Davis had a great year last year. It seems like he's backing it up. Victor Scott is an incredible athlete. Jacob Waters throws 1 trillion miles an hour in their bullpen. I don't know. What's the expression? I like the cut of their jib, Fitzy, the West Virginia. So what do you guys think? Was that your first team out, or was there another team that kind of tickled your guys' fancy?
I don't know. For me, if there was a clear-cut first team out, they were very much in the discussion. It might have been them. But I agree with your assessment. I think I was just a year early on West Virginia and Wake Forest both.
Wake Forest, I should say. Sorry.
Really on both those teams last year. They're 2 preseason top 25 teams that did not have good seasons. But the talent that I liked in both cases is still there for these 2 teams. And maybe they're figuring it out now a year later. I mean, Victor Scott is a prime example of that. He was one of my favorite breakout guys last year. I think I drafted him in our preseason game last year. A really bad season last year, but now he's hitting 455. He's got big speed, game-changing speed, just a really quick twitch athlete, 6 steals already. McGuire Holbrook, Vince Ippoliti. I mean, these are nice pieces that they've got here. I like this team. I think they're a legitimate contender in the Big 12.
Love it. KR, any of those other teams stand out for you?
Yeah, Tulane's a club I have my eye on. I kind of want to see what they do against Mississippi State this weekend. But that was a club when I talked to Travis Jewett in the fall that I really liked. They really relied on, or they're going to rely on, Tyler Hoffman is kind of the guy that would step in and potentially be the Friday guy. Obviously, Dylan Carmouche is off to a nice start. They got some nice pieces offensively too. Jake LaPrairie was a guy who, I think hit close to 300 last year, and he's really struggled so far. So they've gotten production from Bennett Lee and some other guys Ethan Groff, even with, LaPrairie struggling. So I like some of the pieces Tulane has, but I think I'm with Aaron on West Virginia right now. I'm impressed with what they've done. We talked about Jacob Waters and guys like that, but Ben Hampton, their right-handed starting pitcher, had a really good start over the weekend for the Mountaineers. So a lot of these pieces for West Virginia that I thought were kind of question marks coming into the season, particularly in the weekend rotation, they've kind of found answers to, at least in the first 2 weeks. And it's not one of the situations too where they're playing like Iona and Fordham, like they're playing legitimate teams. They're playing what was it, UNC Wilmington. And who was it they had opening weekend?
Central Michigan.
Yeah, so they're playing good teams. Central Michigan, the MAC favorite. So they're playing quality clubs. So far so good. And maybe last year is kind of what West Virginia needed to kind of kickstart them back into gear a little bit. Maybe they got a little complacent or something beyond the injuries they had. So I'm really impressed with them so far.
All right, boys, I'm going to give you, to wrap up, I'm going to give you 5 storylines in college baseball that I wrote down. And you guys take this anywhere you want. And I would just say the first 2 weekends have been awesome. And, of course, MLB, with this lockout, that's not good for any of, like even the college baseball nerd in me wants Major League Baseball to figure this out. Or, is it nice that baseball fans can maybe take a closer peek at what we got going in college baseball? Certainly. But we want Major League Baseball back. That said, I tweeted this today, like in the last 5 days, Bill Simmons and Trey Turner and Wawa, arguably my favorite company in the United States, all tweeted about college baseball over the last 5 days. So God bless that. So here are the 5 storylines that caused those tweets. Tommy Tanks, what a story. Incredible. How about the WCC, boys? I just want to throw this out there. BYU sweeps at Arizona State. Gonzaga sweeps at Cal State Fullerton. San Diego has 3 wins over Oregon, who was a host last year. Portland started the season 7-0. St. Mary's is 7-0. I should say Portland started out 6-0. They're 6-1 now. So just up and down that league. I didn't even mention Pepperdine. The WCC off to a great start. The Ivy League guys, incredible. Yale gives Auburn everything they want. Harvard hasn't played in 2 years. They win the first game at Miami. And then, the Penn Quakers, #Quake Show, win a series in College Station. So the Ivy League, incredible. Brad Maum, our shortstop at Albany, 5th-year senior, New York kid. He's got 8 home runs. Tommy Tanks only has 9 home runs. Brad Maum has 8 home runs. He only has 10 hits for the year. He has 8 home runs and 2 singles or 2 non-home runs, which is crazy.
Yeah, they played Georgia opening weekend, so it's not like they're playing chopped liver out there.
He had 3 home runs against the Bulldogs, who can really pitch.
Yeah.
And then, I thought we'd mention UIC out of the horizon goes to Cal, who we think very highly of, and takes that series. So go anywhere you want with this, boys. Which of those storylines jumps out at you, besides the obvious one?
I want to know who Wawa tweeted about. Was it the Delco boat racers?
No, but man, do I need to get the Delco boat racers on their radar. No, our good friend at Baseball America, Teddy Cahill, I thought very appropriately said, if Penn wins this series, I will have Wawa for lunch tomorrow. Now I don't have that option here in Arizona, and Wawa, he must have tagged them in his tweet because they followed it up. They jumped on it, which I appreciate very much. It's good corporate.
Do they have Wawa in DC?
They have it in, I don't know, like where's Teddy living now?
He's in DC.
He's in DC, so
that's
I was
close enough
if he
to
actually
Philly.
got in a car and drove to the nearest Wawa.
Yeah.
His wife is from Philly, so that's how we pulled that off.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this about the Ivy. Number one, a lot of their teams look prepared over the weekend, other than Cornell, but against Virginia. But yeah, I'll say this about Penn. I was kind of following the very end of their game against A&M yesterday. Just because I was getting ready to leave at Dell Diamond. And I was like, well, this game looks really interesting. They may actually win the series. The thing about it is like A&M didn't give that series away. Like, it's not like A&M booted balls around left and right in the 8th and 9th innings. I want to say Penn had 5 straight singles or 5 straight hits. So, I mean,
it was incredible. I watched it 2KR. It was incredible. Like, you could argue A&M actually played fine. Like, they actually played well enough to win. Penn just won the game. Excellent point.
Yeah, they said the pitchers are very well rested, so
coming in on 700 days rest. Yeah, they're feeling pretty good.
Seriously. Oh gosh.
Yeah, that was neat. I mean, that was neat. And our man Walt V is going to have a piece on Penn coming up in the next day or two. Also, we got a lot of great content coming on the site this week.
Yes, sir.
I just want to plug our staff. What an awesome staff we got. They're just cranking it out right now. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot of exciting stuff that's happening, Runes. It's some neat storylines, really, and the Tommy Tanks thing is a lot of fun. Everybody's talked about that, but I can't wait to see what happens. When he gets to face better competition, because they have not played a very good, strong schedule so far. But he's not going to drop off too much. He's not going to hit, he's not going to hit 5 home runs a week all year, but this is a guy with a real approach. He's going to keep on putting up numbers. Can't wait to see him against the ACC this year. This is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, boys, let's pin ourselves down on Tommy Tanks, because I'm with you, Fitzy. Like, there's a lot of things that say, hey, you can't keep doing this. But there are other things that say he kind of can. Like, he doesn't swing at balls. He uses the middle of the field. He's strong as a dang donkey, and he's playing in a park that suits him, in a lineup where you can't just walk him. If you just walk him every time, NC State's going to put 8 on you. And so I don't know. There's a lot in his favor. Okay, so here's what I want to pin us down. So we think Spencer Torkelson set the freshman record for home runs in 2018 with 25. What I'm told is it's actually not a record that's kept. So that's the problem, is that nobody really
Producer
knows.
whispering that in your ear, Runes? Jeremy Mills punching that in?
Is that Scott Gustafson back there telling you that?
Yeah, no. So let's assume, because I can't find anywhere that is a true freshman season with more than 25. So let's assume that's the record. Tommy Tanks is at 9. Is he breaking Spencer Torkelson's air quotes record, or is he not breaking it?
Boy, that's good.
I'm going to say so. I love Tommy Tanks. And by the way, I saw like a post-game interview with him the other day. It was like, what a cool kid. Like, they asked him about his like nickname about Tommy Tanks, and he just kind of like giggled and like kind of brushed it off. Like, hey, like if that's what they want to call me, like I'm just out here to play baseball. Like, he was a really humble dude.
Yeah.
So I hope he breaks the record. But I think in that league, with how good I think that league is this year, I'm going to say under. I don't think he's getting a 25.
He's at 9, Kendall. He's at 9.
I choose to believe that Tommy gave himself that nickname in like a Little League World Series broadcast. He was like, my name's Tommy White and I hit tanks. Like I choose to believe that's how it happened.
Thomas Tanks.
That's a great question. If Kendall's going to take the under, go ahead. I'm going to take the over. Let's go, Tommy Tanks. Let's go.
So I did my typical politician deal where I said I hope he breaks the record, but I think it's going to be under.
Yeah, take a stance, Kendall. You're the jellyfish.
Kendall's quote savvy is an easy 80. So good. Not your first rodeo. Boys, so we'll wrap on this. Give me the over also. It's 26 or bust. You can do it, Thomas Tanks. By the way, the NC State Twitter handle for baseball is on fire. They're doing a great job covering Tommy Tanks. And my favorite one, which is now a hashtag that I will be deploying, they put build the statue. I mean, come on. Like it was after Tommy hit like the 7th home run. They wrote build the statue.
In all honesty, like I love Tommy Tanks, but let's see what happens in the ACC play before we build a statue, please.
No, build it.
No.
Build it.
Build
that foundation going.
Somebody start pouring some concrete. Let's go.
I mean, it is Raleigh. We can at least get a parade, can't we?
Yes. Oh, gentlemen, well done. Gosh,
that's a low blow for the NC State people. I'm gonna get some hate mail for that.
That's not cool. Don't make me say why you said something like that.
All right, let's move on.
Wow,
boys,
Christian Aro is going to take away your admin privileges.
That is it. And Hardy the Hat Guy, I see you. That was we had a torque bomb reference, and we appreciate it. We missed the torque bombs. Gosh, we missed the torque bombs.
Arizona State really misses the torque bombs right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They would have Spencer Torkelson pitching right now, man. Run prevention is a real problem for the Sun Devils right now. But hey, I'm telling you guys,
that's another podcast.
Yeah, and I want to give full credit to BYU. I think BYU's got really good pitching. Like I don't love their offense as much, but that series sweep was as much about BYU having some real arms as it was. You know, we know Arizona State they're going to have struggle to get to 27 outs. It's hard. They just don't have great pitching, and you know it's an average defense, I think, for the most part. So anyway, very good. Hey, for those of you that are on YouTube, do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. We are so excited about these live streams, and that's one way you can really support us is if you're watching us on YouTube, even if you're not, get on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That is really helpful. Our plan is to keep doing these live streams. Love the comments down the right-hand side there. Really keep those coming. We'll continue to keep addressing those as best we can. Gentlemen, well done. Happy Monday. Excellent performance. As Fitzy would say, win every podcast. We will join you Thursday evening for our picks. My picks will be terrible as usual. I was the only person in America that picked Tulane and still only gained one game. I gained one game on Fitzy. It's a joke. I don't know. I seriously
haven't looked at my
need a
results
coach.
yet. I'm kind of scared to look at my results.
Not good. Fitzy, just dominance. So that's it, boys. We will talk to you soon. Everybody have a great week. We'll catch you Thursday night, and that's it.